Hey, this is John Lee Dumas of Entrepreneur on Fire. And when I'm not interviewing inspiring entrepreneurs, I'm listening to Stephanie O'Brien on the Moved by Purpose podcast.
One of the things that I did that I think is really important, and I always tell people to do, is keep working hard. Don't slack off. I think the tendency, it's really easy to be in a situation or a job you don't like and to just kind of disconnect and just be, half-hearted with your work. And I think it's really, really important to really work really hard, even when it's really challenging and when you don't feel like it.
Are you longing to know what your purpose is? Are you on the wrong career path? Do you feel like there must be more to life? Don't worry, there's hope. It's time to be moved by purpose. Now your host, Stephanie O'Brien.
This is Stephanie O'Brien with the Moved by Purpose podcast. And today I want to remind you of the Purpose Pursuit program that I have going on right now. Slots are very close to being filled. There's about 1 to 2 more spots for you open. Come on over to movedbypurpose.net to learn more about it. Purpose Pursuit is right on the front page. There's a nice, lovely flyer that gives you information about it. And then I have a page that you can look more about it. But this program is for you if you are really just basically stirred to, or drawn, or just have this heavy heart to know your purpose. You know you're meant for so much more. You know there's just so much more for you, but you don't know what that is. You don't know how to gain clarity on that. You don't know how to walk that out. So in essence, you're being moved by purpose to take action or to seek out what that purpose is for your life or for this current assignment or moment or season in your life. So this program addresses the process on how to gain clarity, what to do. It's a group of supporters, like-minded supporters with you that are going through the same thing. And of course, I am very, very accessible in these programs to guide you. Email interaction is available. There's 4 one-on-one individual calls included in this program. This program is very priced incredibly low considering the amount of accessibility and individualized attention you do get, plus the bonus of community involved with having a group. There are none other out there like this that I have seen for this price tag. Like I said, I have very undercut the value of it. The most programs like this are thousands of dollars, and you don't even have access to the coach. This, you have access to me twice a month and in between through emails, and then again one-on-one for $150 a month. So yeah, I made myself extremely available to you because I want you to be successful and thriving in purpose and in work you love, and it's important for me to see you get there. So I did not want to make price an option or an objection to holding you back. Most people can come up with that. And so I know that's very affordable. I mean, like that's cutting your cable bill for 3 months and you're good, or reducing your cell phone package down to be, less data. Whatever it is, there's ways you can easily come up with $150 a month, go babysit for a weekend, and boom, you have it. And it's only for 3 months. So there's really no excuse as far as cost is concerned with you not being able to. I didn't want that to be an option or an issue for holding people back. So I am super excited to have you over at movedbypurpose.net. Shoot me an email, and let's get started with this interview. My guest today is Bob, and I really should have asked him how to pronounce his last name, Lotich or Lotich, and I apologize, Bob, if you were listening to this. I did not ask for clarity on the pronunciation of your last name. Anyway, he is from Christian PF, and his goal is to help you get control of your money so you have more to give and can enjoy giving it. And that sounds like a beautiful mission and goal, and I am right up there with him. So I saw that, loved it, had to have him as a guest. So without any further delay, let's get right into the interview. welcome to the show, Bob. I am very excited to have you on today.
Oh, I'm very glad to be here too.
The first question I typically ask my guests is just to be able to get to know you a little bit better. Could you give us a background about your work history and what led you to starting Christian PF?
Yeah, so I got out of college, and while I was in college, I was kind of working in the banking industry a little bit. I was a personal banker, opening accounts for people and things like that. And then after college, I transitioned to a brokerage firm in town. And so I was working in all kinds of different departments and areas of the firm, and basically we're helping people invest their money. It's basically what we did. And so I did that for probably 5 years or so. And as I was kind of going through that phase, I was realizing I wasn't in love with my job. I wasn't in love with the mission of the company. Not that I disagreed with it. It wasn't a passion of mine. And through that time, I began to kind of manage the ironic thing is a lot of people who work in the financial services industry many of them don't manage their money very well, which is kind of ironic and funny. But I was one of them. And anyway, so I began kind of learning how to manage my own money and be a little bit more efficient and spend wiser and things along those lines. And as I was doing that, I was realizing I love this stuff. Like I'm totally geeking out about how to save money here or how to be a little bit smarter with my bill paying or creating a system or any of these things. And I was just really excited about it and didn't really have anyone to talk to about it. And that kind of led to me starting a blog where I talked about all these things and helped people manage their money better and things like that. And without giving you the full-blown story, that just kind of transitioned. There was a transition period from there that ultimately led to me running the blog full-time and us kind of expanding it to a more full-featured website where we offer free courses and books and things like that now. So
did you intend for that to be something? Were you intentional about that evolving into something that you could do full time and replace your job?
I think for me, it was in the back of my brain, but I had never really done any entrepreneurial things before. I mean, other than maybe doing a lemonade stand when I was 10 or something,
right.
I wasn't the guy who always had a ton of businesses. This was kind of my first step into entrepreneurship. And as a result, I had no idea what to expect. I wanted it to succeed. I wanted to be able to do this full time. But back in 2007, there were not a lot of full-time bloggers. I knew of about 2 total in the entire world. So I knew the chances were pretty slim being able to turn that into a full-time income. But I also knew that I can work really hard. I'm good at that. I'm a good learner. I'm a quick learner. And I knew I had some assets that would kind of help make this work for me. And so anyway, long story short, to answer your question, it wasn't like a 5-year plan where it's like this, I'm going to be doing this full time at this point. It was, I want to do this. I think I can probably make some money from it. But even if I don't, I'm going to love it. I'm really going to have fun doing it. And the thing I like to tell people is it's really, really important that you're passionate and excited about what you're doing, whatever it is, because if you're not, it's going to come through. And that passion fuels you to kind of push through the hard times and the challenging, struggling times to get to the kind of breakthrough side of things. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. And that's what I stand for. And that's what I love helping people do. And I was telling you before, the official recording of the show is I stumbled across a blog that you wrote about your transition. And I could relate so much to the process that you were going through because I went through the same thing. And so I would love to hear more, like you speak more on the transition process for the person that identifies that like they know what they want, they know what really just lights their fire, and they're working towards that, but they're still in that day job that does not light their fire. And in fact, it almost feels like it dims their light, you know, like it takes away or extinguishes it. And that tension and that tug, it's a difficult season. So I would love to hear your side of it and what you went through in that period.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's a tough time. I remember being in there very, very well. And I hope I never forget it because I want to remember what it was like, because I've been doing this full time for over 5 years now, and I never want to forget what it was like, mostly because I want to really appreciate this side of things. I never want to take it for granted because I've been in jobs that I really, really did not like and that sucked the life out of me. I just really can't relate with that. But one of the things that I did that I think is really important, and I always tell people to do, is keep working hard. Don't slack off. I think the tendency, it's really easy to be in a situation or a job you don't like and to just kind of disconnect and just be, half-hearted with your work. And I think it's really, really important to really work really hard, even when it's really challenging and when you don't feel like it. I think that we reap what we sow, and it's just really important to stay focused. And it's challenging, but I think it's a really important part of this whole thing. And I think, I don't know, somehow I think that just kind of fuels more energy and helps you enjoy kind of that negative thing, the bad job or whatever, a little bit more when you're still working at it, you're still trying to be excellent. And the whole idea of excellence being a habit, it's like you don't want to get in a bad habit of slacking off because it just drifts and kind of creeps into other areas of your life. So anyway, that's one thing I think is really, really important. Now, within that, I think depending on your job and what you're doing, I think there are often ways where you might be able to find some things that overlap. So, for example, the job I had, or the last job I had before I got laid off, which ultimately led me into this, I had an opportunity to listen to, I could do my work while listening to whatever I wanted. So I would spend probably 4 or 5 hours of my day listening to audiobooks about business or podcasts about business or stuff like that, stuff that was fueling my fire and my passion and stuff that was making me smarter and sharper and ultimately was going to help me reach my goal better. Now, so for every job, depending on what the job is, that might be something different. If you're a receptionist and you have time to read, you can read a book. If you're in a job where you can listen to something, you can do that or whatever it is. But if you have that opportunity, I highly recommend you do it because you can get a great education these days just from podcasts and from audiobooks. And so all it takes is just the time to listen.
Absolutely. I did the same thing. I don't know if you're familiar with Zig Ziglar,
Absolutely.
But he calls that the automobile university. Yeah. If you have a commute and you're sitting in rush hour traffic, put on an audiobook or a podcast and you get to educate yourself on that commute. And so I started doing that too, listening every time. I happen to drive a lot in my former job. So I was learning all the time in my car. And then I figured, hey, I have to do laundry or mow the lawn or something. I was like, I'm going to be listening to podcasts. So every chance I got, I was learning. Yeah. And I was putting that time in too. And I see a similar process to that too. It's amazing how much you learn just by adding that one element into what you're already doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And in total agreement with you as well with the giving it everything you got and developing the habit of excellence. Because if you start slacking, it does absolutely transfer. If you start developing those habits of kind of slack, those habits are going to transition and transfer with you into if you're trying to build a business or whatever else you're developing.
Yeah.
And I do think you definitely I bathed that season of transition in prayer because it's not an easy season. And to work into the Lord, yep. It's easier to state than to actually do. And you need the grace of God to empower you to make it through that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's how when I look back and I see that whole phase, that's all I think of it as, is how did I get through that? And nothing, it's just grace. That's the only thing that makes sense.
Oh, yeah. And it's like, I don't really want to go back. It's like, I never really want to go back to that season, but at the same time, there was so much growth that happened in that season. My character was getting developed, and to be able to give something your all when your heart is really not that into it, like that takes the grace of God first to do. And then to know the discipline of giving it your all when you're less than thrilled about what you're doing, because I learned in my business, entrepreneurship is a sexy idea right now and everybody wants to do it. And I get I love non-traditional work, but at the same time, not everybody is cut out for it as well. Mm-hmm. And I would encourage people to really do everything you can with taking responsibility to make where you are right now the best possible, as best as you can make it. Because there are tasks, even in your own business, when you think like everything is just you work for yourself and on your own terms and you think all these great things happen. There are plenty of things that I need to do that I am less than thrilled to do. Those still come up even in your own business. And to the discipline that I learned through the season of having to just buckle down and do things that I didn't really enjoy doing, it transferred into my business. And so it helps, that discipline really helps you power through the difficult things, especially in startup.
Yeah.
There's so many things that you have to learn and stuff, because when you don't have the team yet and you don't have a mass, all these people and all these hands on deck to help you get your vision come to pass, it's you. So
yeah, that's so true.
Absolutely. So I also did not have an entrepreneurial, I didn't necessarily have an entrepreneurial bent. I did the traditional work. I, in fact, didn't really understand, I knew businesses existed, but I didn't really quite get entrepreneurship. And I didn't take any business classes or marketing classes. And so when I started developing my business, I really had no idea what I was doing. And when I finally transitioned, I'm wondering if you had similar experiences when you transitioned, if there was a whole new learning curve of having to go from basically working on a team or in a structured, established business to now you are starting something from scratch and responsible for the vision and the drive and communicating to a team if you had one and all of that. Was that really challenging for you and kind of like a shock at first?
Yeah, I think for me, the biggest hurdle I had, because all those things are issues and challenges, but for me, the biggest challenge is kind of breaking out of the 9-to-5 mentality. I had been an employee for so long that I couldn't wrap my brain around anything other than this just 9-to-5, 5 days a week thing. Mm-hmm. And for me, that ended up not being very good or not helpful at all. And I still wrestle with this today. So the thing is, it's once you're an entrepreneur, or if you're an entrepreneur, the amount of hours that you put in doesn't necessarily equal the dollars that you're getting out. So a salaried employee, this is the same thing. But for somebody working by the hour, it's just a whole different mindset. And so I would fluctuate between these two kind of extremes of things kind of being crazy and hectic. And, I'd want to work just 16 hours a day just to do everything I can do to make it successful. And then on the other extreme, it was just not working enough or whatever, or feeling lazy or whatever else. And the bottom line is it's just a whole different thing where the amount of hours you put in doesn't matter. It's how smart you are with what you do with that time. And still has been just a challenging thing to learn, but I think such a critically important component, because it's easy to get kind of caught up in spinning your wheels and feeling like, well, as long as I'm doing stuff, I'm making progress. But that's not the case. It's doing the important things, kind of having an 80-20 approach, figuring out what those most important things are that you can do and do them, and be comfortable after you do them, taking a break or go playing with your kids for a little bit. You know what I mean by all that?
Oh, yes. And I'm so glad, because I have been fighting a ton of guilt with that. And I'm like, okay, if I have a really productive 4-hour day and got the essential things done, and then if I want to take a break, I can be a good boss to myself and allow myself to rest and take a break.
Yeah.
And I'm not cheating myself. I'm not stealing from I'm just the mentality. And then I also shift my hours too. Sometimes I'll get a later start and I work later. Now I can, because I don't have kids, and my lifestyle is very different from someone that has kids or has a spouse. So I can do that and it's okay. And I'm to just the mentality of okay, it's all right if I'm not working 9 to 5 today.
Yeah,
it's okay.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right.
So I'm glad I'm not the only one that feels like, that struggled with that. I'm like, gosh, I don't know. I feel like I feel like I'm doing something wrong, but I got the essentials done. And I have done the extreme too of like, feeling like I had to do everything and doing a 16-hour day. And like, that's just draining too. Yeah. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how could somebody, for the 80-20, I guess, like, how did you, because I'm still learning this, I'm getting better, but how are you able to determine what, like, the essential critical tasks were from the noisy, trivial many?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. And I think it just requires a lot of honesty in looking at your goals. What are you trying to achieve? And in evaluating everything that's in front of you and what is going to or what is currently helping you get there. So for me, I've done this with social media a lot. It's like, as you know, there's tons of social media platforms, but I pretty much only focus on one at a time. And so I still have stuff going up on Twitter, but I put no energy into Twitter because I did put some energy into it and it didn't yield any results. And so I just had to, kind of quit using it. And the same with Facebook. It's like we do post stuff to Facebook, but it's all automated and we don't put a whole lot of time and energy into Facebook because it hasn't yielded a whole lot of benefit for us.
Yeah, sorry, I want to interrupt you real quick. What would you determine? I think that's good. You're trying it and then you're seeing it's not yielding a benefit. But how long would you say like someone should maybe try it in order to determine if it's not yielding? Because the people have a fear of missing out or quitting too early as well.
So for example, here's what I did. So starting in, I don't remember what month. I want to say maybe April of last year. From about April of last year to maybe October, November of last year, I worked really, really hard on Facebook, trying to grow our Facebook audience, really engage with the community, do everything I can do to get as much traffic, as much engagement, whatever, from Facebook as possible. And we saw some really good growth on our Facebook page. We saw a lot more traffic, but when I evaluated that next to the amount of traffic we were getting from Pinterest, and I was doing next to zero effort or putting in no work on Pinterest, we were still getting almost the same amount of traffic from Pinterest doing nothing as we were from doing all this work on Facebook. And so at that point, I concluded, all right, it's time to move on. We're moving on to Pinterest. And ever since, we've been pretty much focusing on Pinterest solely as our social media platform, trying, and when I say that, it's like we still have all of our posts go up on Facebook or Twitter or Google Plus and LinkedIn or whatever, but we're not actively putting a lot of energy into them. And Pinterest is the only one we're actively trying to grow. And we've been doing that for the last 5 or 6 months, and it's worked really, really well. And it's yielding a lot of traffic. It's yielding just a lot of benefits for our business and our brand. And so that's one of those 20% things that are yielding 80% results. And so we're just focusing a lot of energy there on that. That's just one example of kind of how I like to approach things and see what's working and see what isn't.
Yeah, just out of curiosity, from the Pinterest, are you getting a lot more female audience then?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's 95% of Pinterest audience is women. So
yeah, I was curious. So, like, is audience primarily female now? Okay. Yeah.
Our audience for our website is tilted female. I think it's like 60-40. So
okay. You hit a good point, is just testing, and you were really smart about that strategy. Like, you have the different platforms, but you're paying attention really to what's going on. You're not just kind of blindly keep going and throwing things because you're so determined to make Facebook work for you because of all of the effort and energy you put into it. And like, I think, at least me, I can sometimes get stuck and stubborn on like, I will not be defeated. Yeah. It's just like, well, let's just use common sense here. Like, just shift that energy over to Pinterest and you should be good. So.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, it's weird because you grow up, or at least I think a lot of us do, grow up hearing that you never quit. You never quit. That's the greatest like attribute you should have, is that you never quit anything. And I don't know. And I've kind of found the opposite to be true. Like, I think we should quit a whole bunch of things.
Oh, yes.
You know what I mean? And I think there are some things that we should never quit, or maybe like the big goal. So in my case, for my business, maybe this big goal of reaching all these people or whatever it is. I shouldn't quit. I should keep fighting. But within that, there's all kinds of little things that I'm trying, and I think a lot of them should be quit. Once I realize that it's not working, I think that's the easiest path to success is, once you see it's a failure, you move on to the next thing and then try that. And back to your question a few minutes ago, it is tricky figuring out how long do you give something to see if it's a failure or success. But what I've noticed, and this doesn't work with everything, but a lot of things, you can see the trends and you can see, is this thing growing or is it shrinking or is it going nowhere? And if there's growth, I like to follow growth as long as it's growing, even if it's really, really small, even if I'm only getting an extra 20 visits a month or something to my website. If it continues to grow, I like that. That will capture my attention and I will stay focused on that.
Definitely. I've written a couple posts on basically how to know when it's time to quit, and then also winners quit often.
Yeah.
The successful people, they have learned the discernment between when to hang in there just a little moment longer and when it's like, okay, we gotta quit. This isn't working. Yeah. And it's very liberating, I think, to just give yourself permission to let it go. It's not working for you. Try something else. It's not that you're a failure. It's just try something else to get you closer to that big picture goal.
Yep.
The little steps that you take to get to the goal, there's probably going to be a lot of obstacles and things that don't work out so favorably that you hope that would get you there. But if you continue to kind of reroute or course correct, you will eventually get there.
Yeah, and that's a good point. I mean, that's one of the things that I feel, because I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs too, and a lot of people starting blogs or things like that. And that's one of the things that I wish I could teach every single one of them, and I wish they could get a hold of, is this idea that you have to work hard, but you have to continually make course corrections, because it's so easy for newbies who want a step-by-step path to just get in, all right, these are the 10 things that I do, and this is all I do every single day. I do these 10 things, and I'm just going to do this for 3 years, and then it's going to work. And it's just not that simple. It's, you know what I mean? So that might be a starting point, but okay, you're doing these 10 things. All right, which of these 10 things are working and which of them aren't? Get rid of the other 8 that aren't working. Find some other 8 to replace them with and see if they're working better. But just continually adjusting to see what's working, what's yielding results, and what isn't.
Absolutely. And another thing that just came to mind, which is having clarity on why you're working on the step that you're working on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So many people, including myself, I did this. It's just I was without any target. I mean, I thought I had a target, but I was just firing everywhere, which you're just pulling the trigger. You're not hitting anything. Yeah. And to really remind myself, it's why did I start this? For example, podcasting. What was my goal for podcasting? Some people start a podcast to reach a broader audience or hit specific numbers or whatever. And that was not the reason for my initial start. Now I'm readjusting the goal of podcasting and maybe trying to expand it because I've knocked the original goal out of the park. Yeah. So it's also readjusting your goals too once you reach success, but having clarity on why you started it is really key. And I think some people will just start activity. And I think that it goes to probably the whole 9 to 5, just working for someone else.
Yep.
You think activity is good, which productivity is good. Yeah. Busyness, not so much. So definitely. Yeah. And what works for you is not a guarantee that it will work for me either. And I think that's a big thing. We can learn from success. There is something to be learned from success. Absolutely. We can ask and inquire to see what's working for them to determine if we want to try the same approach. But we're not guaranteed the same exact outcomes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's look at the diet pills or all these weight loss programs. I mean, in small asterisk, it says results not typical.
Yep.
So it's okay, if you think that you're going to transform and have that exact body or outcome or dramatic weight loss by taking or by participating in this program, it's probably not, because there's so many factors that go into their success and their situation versus yours. So. Well, it was an honor to have you on the show today, Bob. And I want the listeners to be able to connect with you, learn more about what you do, what services you do. I know finances are all of us need money it's to survive. So, and how to manage it better is in saving money, especially for people in startup or transitioning or maybe wanting to come up with a transition plan and how to get more savings and all of that. I'm sure you can cover that. How can they connect with you?
So yeah, christianpf.com is my main site. And basically our website is geared towards helping Christians manage their money with the end goal of being able to give more. That's just a passion of mine. That's a passion that I see most believers I talk to really want to be able to give more. And, so the first step is kind of getting your own finances in order to free up more cash to do the things you want and to be able to give more. So yeah, so we have free email courses on the site. I mean, we have 2,000 articles there, just any and everything that someone would want or need to help them get their kind of finances in order. We help them do that. Along those lines, for anybody who is interested in blogging, I have a free ebook that you can download on that. It's just christianpf.com/blogging. It's a free ebook, kind of goes through all the process, everything you need to know to get started, as well as kind of the things I did to take it from starting from scratch to a full-time living. So that's where you can find me.
Good. And that's the step I did. I started with a blog. I've evolved and transitioned into something else, but that was my first step. And that's usually where depending on the person's situation, but a lot of people, I encourage them to blog. So that is I think that's going to be a great resource for them. Well, thank you again so much, Bob, and have a wonderful week and best adjusting to daylight savings as we were talking about. Yeah. I hope you adjust quickly.
Yeah. Well, you too. Thanks for having me, Stephanie. So the thing is, it's like once you're an entrepreneur, or if you're an entrepreneur, the amount of hours that you put in doesn't necessarily equal the dollars that you're getting out. So a salaried employee, this is the same thing. But for somebody working by the hour, it's just a whole different mindset. And so I would fluctuate between these two kind of extremes of things kind of being crazy and hectic. And, I'd want to work just 16 hours a day just to do everything I can do to make it successful. And then on the other extreme, it was just not working enough or whatever, or feeling lazy or whatever else. And the bottom line is it's just a whole different thing where the amount of hours you put in doesn't matter. It's how smart you are with what you do with that time.
So there you have it. That was Bob at christianpf.com. Make sure you check him out. Say hello. See what he has to offer. Great resources, great website. And who does not want to learn how to get control of their money so they have more to give? What a beautiful goal and mission. I know most of you that listen in have that heart to give and serve others more and make a real impact in the world with your work and with your money and time and talents. So make sure to check them out. And come on over to movedbypurpose.net. If you have not yet subscribed to my website, if you have not yet written a review or subscribed to my show on iTunes, please do so. That would mean the world to me. I love trying to produce inspiring content for you every week in providing the best applicable practical help for you on my website, and I want to see you get unstuck. So I would love to know who you are and to stay connected with you every week. If you could subscribe, that would be wonderful. And the number one thing that you hear me consistently say every week is that if you don't know what to do and you are feeling stuck, just go out and do something, because it is through the action that you take that teaches you whether or not it's a good fit for you or not. So whatever you think is a good idea, or anything that may draw you or interest you, anything that you have thought, oh, I've always wanted to do that, just go out and start doing that. Just do something. And I will talk to you all next week.